everyone, Screaming Geek Media here. I am Jerry the Geek. Today's video, we got a little challenge for you for November. But before we jump into that, it's like physical media, it's like 4Ks, Blu-rays, DVDs, it's like home theater, movies in general. Please check out my other videos on my channel because I do these reviews, unboxings, collection updates, different discussions like this. So check those out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn your bell notifications on. So today we've got a challenge for you for the month of November. I got it from another YouTuber, Mega Mike the Movie Man. He's got some good content if you want to check out. I got his link below. He's doing a November challenge for Thanksgiving, and he's calling it, being thankful. Being thankful for what you have. And basically, what it is you take the word thankful. And each letter of the word, you pick out a movie that actually, has some kind of connection to it, like has a meaning to it. And I come up with a list and decided to do it myself. But I decided to, take it up a notch. Instead of just thankful, I actually do the whole word Thanksgiving. So it's a few more movies. Again, it's not just random movies I'm pulling off the shelf. Most of the movies here I have a connection with. The connection would be, does it have meaning to you, or does it bring up some kind of memory? So most of the movies here do that. There are a couple of don't quite fit the bill, but I didn't have a lot of choice within that letter, so I just had to pick something. But anyways, to do the word Thanksgiving, the first one is the letter T. And what we have is Tron. Walt Disney movie classic. For me, it brings up the memories of old arcades because, based with the arcade game Tron. And back home, back in the day, we had a really nice arcade in town. And I remember playing this a lot. So that's the connection the movie has with me, is, bringing back those memories of the arcade game. Now, next up is the letter H. We are going to do Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is what you can see on the screen behind me. And of course, you can see the wording. It's in German because this came from Turbine. It was a German release. Now, this is a movie, I did a review of this, and it was a 4K. This is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's definitely weird. The connection I have with it is because when this came out, this was the first motion picture that Michael Rooker was in. And so I have that in my memory, because usually when you hear Michael Rooker, most people think of Guardians of the Galaxy. But for me, it's always been Henry. And also Days of Thunder. That's another big one of his. Replacement Killers, he played a cop in. So those, I always remember him more than Guardians of the Galaxy. And when this came out, the video, I bought the VHS because the local video store wasn't interested in getting it. So I had them order me a copy of it. I paid $55 or $60 for it because, VHS movies cost that much back in the day because they were strictly rental. And that was a dealer cost, so he charged me what he would pay for it. So yeah, I had this on VHS. I've always liked it because it has a different take. It's not your typical serial killer movie. Basically, he's a serial killer, but shows how he lives and, everyday life. So I like that different take on it. So I've always liked this movie. I know, again, this is not everyone's cup of tea. I can see why other people don't like this, but yeah. H would be Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Now for the letter A. I had a couple choices at first. I originally I was thinking The Abyss or Alien because they're a couple of my favorite movies. But I changed it up and decided to do the Amityville Horror. The reason I went with this was because this was the very first novel I ever read when I got into junior high. And after reading this, I got into reading Stephen King. So yeah, that's my connection with the movie, is because this was the very first novel I ever read. Now for the letter N, I've got Notting Hill. This is a great romantic comedy. I don't really have a true connection. I just kind of it's my favorite rom-com. You know, I really get your thoughts going. At least for me, you know, this guy. It's everyday average Joe, and he happens to run into this big celebrity and falls. You know, they begin a relationship, and who out there doesn't dream of having that? You know, having a fallen in love with a celebrity. You know, we all have those crushes. So I think that's kind of my connection with it, why I've always liked this movie. You know, of course, this is the, crappy DVD. I've never upgraded, but I've watched this many, many, many times. Again, this would be my favorite rom-com. Again, I've always dreamt of, dream of those things. You know, what would it be like to fall in love with a celebrity? Now for a K, another childhood classic, King Kong from 1976. You know, I got this 4K here, it's a steel book. You know, something I grew up with. I never saw the original until later on, so this was my first exposure to King Kong. So this has always been a sentimental one for me. Now for S. Now, a lot of people would think S would be easy because what movie or what franchise is from everyone's childhood? You know, you'd think Star Wars would be the given. I had it written down, but the more I thought about it, I wanted something else. I picked out Schlock. This is I did a review of the Blu-ray here. This is from Arrow because I had the DVD for the longest time. I mean, this is an all-time campy comedy. It's a parody of old monster movies. We had this on VHS back in the day. Back when we didn't own VHS, we just rented. When we had movies. Actually, we didn't have a video store back then. We had actually VHS delivered to us once a week. And remember, we had this. We watched the piss out of this thing. I don't know how many times our family watched this on VHS. So it's always been a staple, one of my favorite, comedies. And watching it again a while back when I did the review, when I got this, I just, I was in tears because it's so damn funny. I completely forgot about some of the scenes. And plus some great couple tidbits about this. This was written and directed by John Landis, who went on to become, he did American Werewolf in London and many other big hits. This is one of John Landis's early movies he did. And also, when you think of makeup effects, you think of Rick Baker. He's such an icon within a special effects makeup artist, for especially doing the monkey suits. And this was like one of his first monkey suits he'd ever done. I mean, when he made it, he was still living with his mom, and he was using his mom's oven to make the molds for stuff. So this was one of his early beginnings. That's another cool thing about this movie is, you got the beginnings of Rick Baker, John Landis, who became big icons in the film industry. So that's why I had to put this with my S choice. Now, G, we're going to do Garfield the movie. The one that came out, I forget what year this was. This is the live action one. It has Jennifer Love Hewitt. And for me, my connection to this is I grew up with Garfield. I read the comic strips. I was an avid fan. I freaking loved Garfield. And every year they came out with the Garfield book, which would always, would be a collection of all the comic strips. So every year I was buying those. So yeah, I loved Garfield. And back in grade school, I think fourth or fifth grade in there, one of our class projects was to write a letter to a celebrity. And the teachers would, had connections, would send them out. And, at the time, people were writing, major celebrities, from the movie industry. I picked Jim Davis, who created Garfield. And eventually I actually got a reply from Jim Davis. It was pretty cool. I still have that somewhere. So yeah, that is my connection with Garfield. So that was my first G in the Thanksgiving. Now for the letter I picked Ice Age. The first one. My memories with this is I was back in 2002. I did a Europe trip to ride roller coasters, and on my flight back from Spain, this was one of the in-flight movies. And I still remember damn near the whole plane was watching this movie at the same time because the entire plane was laughing their asses off throughout the entire movie. And of course, the played again, I watched it twice on that flight back. So that is my connection. It brings up some of those fond memories from that trip. So yeah, I is Ice Age. Now for the letter V. This one is a little tough. I have some decent movies starting with V, but as far as having any type of connection, it was hard to find. So this is one of my, it has a little bit, but I had to go with Violent Night. You know, it's a newer release. I think the reason I went with this one is because when Universal put this out on video, they did not release a 4K. Universal's really bad about that. They release movies on Blu-ray or DVD, and they let you buy that, and then 6 to 8 months later, hey, let's give you a 4K after you bought, spent the money on a Blu-ray. And this is one I waited several months, and I didn't see it coming. I really wanted to see it, so I saw it at Walmart. It was on sale. Well, I mean, the Blu-ray was on sale. I picked it up, and just days later, they announced the 4K for it. Bastard, I hate when they do that, and I had a double dip, and I got this at the beginning of this year. So yeah, and plus this is a phenomenal movie. It's not your typical horror slash fest. It's really different. I love it. It's way over the top. So V is Violent Night. Now for the second I in Thanksgiving. This I actually changed my mind. I think I originally was planning on doing Iron Eagle, which was a great classic, jet fighter, movie. That was I thought was better than Top Gun. But the more I thought about it, I started thinking of something that actually brought out another memory. And I had to go with Independence Day. Great summer blockbuster movie, great 4K, action-packed. My memory with this is early home theater days. I had, a laser disc, and I upgraded, all my wiring. And there's a scene at the beginning when the camera is panning across the surface of the moon. And you can see, because as the spaceship's coming over, you can see the ground shaking. And on Laserdisc, you can hear the shifting of the moon sand. It's not on a 4K. It's one of the issues I had with the audio track with the 4K is just that element was missing. I mean, it's a great audio track, but that one element is a thing I remember most about this movie on Laserdisc. And my friends, when they'd come over for movie day, they'd flip out over little things like that. You just hear the subtle little sound of the shifting sand. It was freaking crazy. So that's my memories I had with Independence Day. Now for the letter N. This is another tough one. I've got several movies that start with N, but as far as having any type of connection, that was a hard one to choose. And I had one chosen. I decided to change it because this one does have a little bit of connection. No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan. Cheesy ass movie, not the greatest movie because Hulk Hogan sucked acting, but his movies are enjoyable. And back in the day, I did like Hulk Hogan. I watched a lot of wrestling back then, so I do have a connection with this because of that. Again, not the greatest movie, not the greatest acting. And plus, you got Tiny Lister. He plays Zeus in it. He had some really good movie roles over the years. So yeah, N is No Holds Barred. So for the final G in Thanksgiving, this one I had to really think about it. Garfield was an easy pick. I had some other choices for G, but I had to choose the original Gone in 60 Seconds. Not the remake with Nicolas Cage, because that was good, but it it failed in comparison. I mean, when you put it up against the original, the Nicolas Cage one sucked. It was action-packed, but it wasn't a great movie at all. When you talk about car chases, this is hard to beat. Name any movie that's got car chases and put it up against this, it's not going to do it. This is the best movie as far as car chases go. Because most of the movie is a car chase, not just one little scene. The whole damn movie is car chasing. So great classic movie here. If you haven't seen this, give this a whirl. This is hard to find, especially a big reason why it's hard to find was the original audio track. There was some licensing rights disputes. So I think this one here, I don't even think this is original. This was actually has a different audio mix to it because of those rights issues. They could not, you know, it's crazy. I can't remember the exact story, all the words to it, but it had to do with the rights, and they had to change up the music in the movie. And again, I can't remember if this is the original or if it's got the new audio track with it. So yeah, this is really hard to find, you know, the original pressing. I would love to see this get a 4K upgrade. I got a great classic. So yeah, G is the original, gone in 60 seconds. So there you have it, my November challenge for you guys. You know, the Thanksgiving, being thankful. Whether you do just a shorter, you know, thankful, or actually decide to go for a little bit more challenging and get, you know, 12 movies to do Thanksgiving. Let me know what your choices would be. You know, comment below. Let me know what you think. Also, again, shout out to Mega Mike, the movie man, for giving the idea to, you know, taking his idea and expanding on it a little bit. Again, my first choices with the thankful, the final FUL. For F, I was going to do Facing the Giants. It's a Christian movie from the Kendrick brothers. Great movie. I never knew about it until I met my wife, and she'd had it, and she let me see it, and I fell in love with it. You know, became in love with everything Kendrick brothers. U was another hard one. I couldn't find no real connection with any titles starting with U. So I remember I had Unstoppable picked out with Chris Pine and Denzel Washington, because you're definitely one of the best Tony Scott movies out there. It was the last one he did before he passed, based on true events. And then L, I was going to do Lords of Dogtown, because being based on the history of skateboarding, my family was big into skateboarding growing up. So that was my connection to that one. So those was the ones I was going to do. But when I decided to do Thanksgiving, I dropped the FUL and then dropped in the S and then giving. Again, let me know in the comments below if you're interested in trying this challenge with a thankful or Thanksgiving. Again, you know, pick movies that have some kind of meaning for you, or does it, something that brings up some certain memories for you, instead of just randomly choosing. So that's the real challenge there, finding that something that has that meaning, connection for you. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, try the challenge. Check out my other videos on my channel. Like, subscribe, turn your bell notifications on, and we'll see you soon. Geek out.